We have a special guest today, and we'd like to introduce Dr. Edward Snyder, who is going to talk about a new blood product that we're providing to hospitals. Dr. Snyder?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Mr. Smith, Dr. Young, honored guests, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, Cuppy, and I don't know, Droppy, is that the person in the hall?
That's Captain Hemoglobin.
Captain Hemoglobin. My name is Ed Snyder. I'm the director of blood bank at Yale New Haven Hospital in New Haven, Connecticut, and professor of lab medicine. Yale New Haven has relied on the Rhode Island Blood Center for many years for blood. As one of our key suppliers, we really couldn't do what we do without having the Rhode Island Blood Center there when needed. The Blood Center, however, provides blood not just for Rhode Island and Connecticut, but for Maine, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire as well. So it's really a regional center. The safety of the blood supply is the number one priority that obviously it has to be for not just for the blood center, but for those of us who care directly for patients, and obviously the patients who receive these products in the form of red cells or platelets or plasma. Over the past several decades, hepatitis and HIV viruses in the blood supply has been markedly reduced due to the donor screening and the various tests that have been developed and used. These advances, however, have been reactive in the sense that first the viral epidemic needs to be identified and characterized, and then a test developed, and then a test applied and used in hospitals and implemented by the blood community. This can take months to years. Our ability to turn the timeline is dramatically truncated. It took years to get the HIV virus under control in the blood supply, and it took much less time to get the Zika virus under control in a matter of months. It's just because we've learned, because there's new viruses continually coming forward. As technology has changed, though, so has the medical profession's ability to provide safer blood to prevent transfusion-transmitted diseases, which is what is a major concern. Such a major technology advance, and one that really represents a new method of what we call pathogen reduction, has recently been approved by the FDA, and it's been adopted by several blood centers across the country, and Rhode Island is among the first that's going to be incorporating this new technology. It's referred to as pathogen reduction, pathogen being an evildoer that's in the blood, and reduction obviously is reduction. This technology is proactive in the sense that it will reduce threats to the blood supply, including threats we haven't even identified. This material will be in the blood, eliminating not only the known viruses, but also those that we don't even know about yet, and other things that we may have tested for, but may still be present, because it's not 100% perfect elimination of all bacteria or viruses from blood, despite our best efforts, because if it gets below a certain level, you can't detect it, but it still could be infectious. Pathogen reduction will eliminate that concern. The process uses a chemical called sorrelin, P-S-O-R-A-L-E-N, for those of you who want a good Scrabble word, which is present in many of the foods we eat. It's present in celery, grapefruit, and parsley. In fact, there was a recipe in the Boston Globe yesterday on celery root risotto, celery root risotto, which is full of sorrelins. So it is something that is in nature, and we eat a lot of this. This compound is added to platelets, and then the platelet is placed in a light box where ultraviolet light is exposed to the platelets exposed to it, and the sorrelin binds to DNA and RNA and inactivates it and prevents it from replicating. By preventing the DNA and RNA from replicating, it essentially kills or inactivates anything that has DNA or RNA. There's nothing in platelets that should have DNA or RNA that we need, mainly the platelet. But if there are any pathogens or bacteria or viruses in the blood, they would be inactivated, and that's the mechanism whereby this addition of this compound prevents further transmission of anything that may have slipped through the screening tests we have, or may be present and we don't even know it exists yet because it hasn't become an epidemic that we're aware of. And this includes viruses, bacteria, fungi, parasites, white blood cells, a whole bunch of things that we're watching. And the premise is if it doesn't belong in the blood, then it should be eliminated or inactivated. That's what the mantra that people who work in blood centers and hospitals, who are the guardians of the blood supply, that's what we live by. So this pathogen inactivation provides a major step forward because, as I mentioned, there are pathogens that can go undetected. In fact, there's another pathogen you probably never even heard of, the Mayora virus, which is circulating out in the Caribbean. Hasn't got to the United States yet, but stay tuned. Indeed, although the U.S. blood supply is the safest in the world, viruses that you're well aware of, Ebola, dengue, chikungunya, and antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. There's all kinds of evil things out there, but we have Larry Smith and Carolyn Young and the Rhode Island Blood Center looking to make blood as safe as possible for all of our patients. And it's the pathogens that we don't know about that I think it's the reason it's proactive is that it's already affecting whatever's in the blood supply. It's not that we have to identify it and then make a test for it. So that's why the reactive part is what we have been doing now, but this is a new paradigm shift, basically, in how things are being done. The Rhode Island Blood Center collected 7,700 platelet donations in 2016 and produced 11,000 transfusible products, some of which came to Yale and for which our patients are grateful. However, as in life, like all things, there's just no free lunch, not even in a blood center. So not all platelet donations qualify to be treated with this pathogen reduction, and that's because every donation is based on, it has to be a certain platelet count because the process lowers the platelets to a degree. Again, no free lunch, so it has to be a high enough platelet count. So not every donor is eligible to have their platelets processed in this way. So as a result of this, blood centers around the country are trying to recruit more apheresis platelet donors so that we can assure that we have enough supply to maintain the pathogen reduction levels the way they are being maintained for what we call conventional platelets, which are the ones that we have now. So the FDA has required that pathogen-reduced platelets must come from a single donor via an apheresis collection, such as occurs at the Rhode Island Blood Center, is one of their 6 sites around the state. The Blood Center anticipates that the demand for pathogen-reduced products will be greater than the donor base can support, and that's a problem. So what they are doing is seeking to add 1,000 new apheresis donors to their roster so they can continue to provide pathogen-reduced products at the same level as the conventional platelets are, which, although all products are tested and they're safe, the highest degree of safety would be with the pathogen-reduced products. And we've been using conventional platelets for over 40 years, but if there's a newer technology that's safer, it should be adopted. So I am here to invite current and potential blood donors and current potential platelet donors to consider joining the Rhode Island Blood Center as a consumer, someone who values our relationship with the Blood Center, realizes how precious these products are and how important the donors are in this process. This facility, without being maudlin about it, is a national treasure with regional commitment to providing the safest blood products for a good portion of the northeastern part of the United States. So I hope you will listen to the stories of the platelet recipients and the donors who we are honored to have here today. And as they share their stories, we hope that you will consider how you might step up, roll up your sleeve, and join the team to help save a life. So thank you very much.